Thank you.
Can a single sausage save a soul from the abyss of war? Or is kindness just another form of torture? Enter the frozen silence of 1945, where a group of German women POWs face a meal that will change their lives forever. The bowl hits the table. Silence. No clink of metal on wood. It is too light, too empty. Look at it. A pale, gray liquid. So thin you can see the worn bottom of the tin bowl. More water than vegetables. More vegetables than hope. The German women POWs sit like statues on the long wooden benches, shadows of who they once were. Nobody reaches for a spoon. Not yet. Hunger here has passed the screaming stage. It no longer roars. It gnaws. It is a slow, methodical parasite, eating away the edges of their souls. Look at their hands. Pale, translucent skin stretched over bone. These were hands that once kneaded dough in Berlin kitchens. Hands that seasoned roasts. Hands that tested the temperature of a child's milk. Now, these German women POWs hold a liquid that needs no tasting. There is no flavor to distinguish. A spoon rises. Slowly. One small sip. Not for nourishment, for time. Eat too fast, and it's gone. And when the soup is gone, the evening becomes a canyon of cold, dark hours. They eat in a heavy, rhythmic silence. Nobody talks about food. To speak of it is to admit the void in your stomach. To speak of it is to surrender. Instead, they whisper about the weeds. Wild greens by the fence. A potato skin found in the mud, washed with rainwater, split in two. Some of the German women POWs don't eat at all. They just close their eyes and drink water, murmuring the names of old recipes like a prayer. Because memory is the only thing that fills a stomach when the bowl is empty. They don't look for weeds, they don't scavenge for skins, not because they are noble, but because these German women POWs are clinging to a wire-thin boundary. If I can still feel shame, they think, then the war hasn't taken everything. They remember their kitchens, the smell of wood smoke, a mother-in-law placing an extra bowl on the table. Eat more. Stay warm. Those memories are a dull ache now. They don't make you collapse, but they don't let you rest. They ask themselves, does dignity matter in a cage? When you are treated like a shadow? When your name is replaced by a number? When you are pig food in the eyes of the world? Then they sit up straight. Not for the guards, for themselves. Memory, family, the ghost of a real meal. That is the only anchor keeping these German women POWs from drifting into the abyss of the subhuman. Outside, the wind whistles through the barbed wire. A dry, hollow sound. The camp is a machine. Heavy boots. Rhythmic. Brutal. Hope isn't just lost. It's buried so deep they've forgotten where they hid it. But this afternoon, something is wrong. The footsteps are different. Not rushed. Not violent. A new scent cuts through the frozen air. The German women POWs lift their heads, a reflex of fear. They look down quickly, terrified that their eyes have committed a crime. They don't know it yet. They don't know that something small, something radical, is about to touch their hands. In a few moments, the memory of this transparent soup will become a border, a line between a life stripped bare and the moment they are treated, once again, as human beings. The change isn't coming in a speech, it's coming in a smell. In a few moments, the memory of this transparent soup will become a border, a line between a life stripped bare and the moment they are treated, once again, as human beings. The change isn't coming in a speech, it's coming in a smell. The change didn't start with a siren. No screaming, no steel toe kicking the door, just footsteps. Steady, slow. not the hurried march of a conqueror looking to crush a soul. The scent arrived before the men. An intruder in the gray air. Warm, heavy, rich. It didn't smell like cold metal. It didn't smell like damp wood smoke. It wasn't the ghost water they called soup. It drifted through the barbed wire like a luxurious whisper. The women lift their heads, a collective, jagged movement. They flinch. To look up in this place is a crime. To hope is a death sentence. But the scent stays. It doesn't vanish. It grows. Americans. They don't push. They don't use the butt of a rifle to point. Their eyes scan the rows of hollow faces. It isn't pity. Pity is cheap. It isn't contempt. It is the look of men who know that war has already taken everything, and there is nothing left to steal. Thud. Metal crates hit the frozen mud. The lids open, and the smell becomes a physical blow. It hits them in the chest. Meat. Real meat. Not a memory. Not a hallucination. Steam. Fat. Salt. It is a miracle made of grease and protein, shimmering under the pale sun. A soldier leans down. The women recoil, a reflex of the beaten. But he doesn't strike. He places something in their hands. Small, hot, heavy, a sausage. They stare at the meat in their palms. Nobody eats. Not because they aren't starving, but because their faith is hungrier than their bodies. They remember the tricks, the promises broken, the kindness that turned into a trap. If I bite this, they think, it becomes real, and the real can be taken away. And that pain is worse than death. They bring it to their noses. A faint, trembling sniff. The scent of hot fat is a time machine. It drags them back to kitchens with oil-stained tables, to husbands laughing with grease on their hands. The memory is so sharp it cuts their throats. The courtyard is a cathedral of silence. No laughter. No thank you. In this camp, emotion has been punished for too long. Kindness, when it arrives this late, feels more like an insult than a gift. It is a violent awakening. The soldiers stand back. They don't rush the animals. They wait for the humans. They leave a space of dignity in the mud. Then, a realization. To eat this is to do something small, yet revolutionary. It is to give oneself permission to believe again. Not in a country, not in a cause, but in the fact that they are still worthy of being fed like a human being. A hand shakes. Not from the cold, from the sheer, terrifying weight of a choice. The teeth touch the casing. Firm, smooth. The first bite hasn't happened, but the tears are already there. Hot, salty, blurring the world. They know. When that fat hits the tongue, it won't just wake up the stomach. Something else, something buried under months of ice and iron, is going to scream. It is going to be painful. It is going to be radiant. And for the first time in 1,000 years, it is going to be real. The youngest among them raises the sausage. She sniffs it, a breath so shallow, so terrified, as if a single deep inhale would blow the scent away and reveal this was nothing but a cruel hallucination of the starving. She closes her eyes, a heartbeat of hesitation. Then she bites. Listen to the sound. The snap of the skin. Feel the heat. The sudden, violent burst of salt on a tongue that has forgotten the taste of anything but gray water and dust. It isn't the cold that makes her teeth chatter now. It is the memory. Warm fat slides down a throat tightened by months of fear. This is more than protein. It is an admission. It is the world finally admitting that these women are still worth keeping alive. It is a resurrection in a single mouthful. They bite, and time fractures. The prison camp, the mud, the barbed wire, they dissolve. The clock turns back. They are no longer prisoners. They are no longer numbers. They are back in kitchens with scarred wooden tables. They see a flash of steel, a husband's knife slicing through a roast. They hear the rhythmic thud of a blade on a chopping board. They smell the steam rising in a small, golden room where the war hadn't reached yet. A memory so ordinary, so mundane, that they once took it for granted. Now, they realize they had to pay for that memory with a world war. The cost was their lives. The cost was their souls. Their throats seize up. Tears hit their skeletal hands hot, bitter, and honest. They don't wipe them away. Shame is dead. Pride is a ghost. There is only the sound of quiet, rhythmic weeping over half-eaten meat. They cry because for the first time in an eternity, they are eating without fear. No fear of the bowl being snatched away. No fear of a boot to the ribs. No price tag on their dignity. Eating is simply eating. Like a human being. The American soldiers stand back. They don't stare. They don't demand a thank you. They leave a respectful perimeter around this fragile, broken silence. A soldier drapes a heavy wool blanket over an old woman's shoulders. Another sets down a canteen of warm water and pulls his hand back fast, as if he's afraid to shatter something made of the thinnest glass. This kindness? It is more confusing than the violence. Violence is predictable. Violence is a language they learned to speak. But kindness, arriving after so much loss, is a debt the heart doesn't know where to store. It is a gentle trauma. The sausage is gone. The stomach is no longer a screaming pit. But as the body fills, a deeper, darker void opens in the chest. The hunger of the spirit. The fullness doesn't bring peace. It brings the truth. They remember the homes that are now ash, the husbands who are now names on a list of the missing, the children whose voices are fading in their ears. They realize a full stomach is not a ticket home. But in that cold courtyard, as the sun slips behind the steel wire, they understand one sharp thing. When you are treated like a human, your past returns. And memory, no matter how much it bleeds, is the only proof that they haven't been erased from the earth. The frost crawls back into the camp. They huddle together, clutching the blankets, carrying the scent of fat like a sacred relic. The night is coming, and with it, the thoughts they were too hungry to face during the day. They are no longer shadows. They are people again. And that is the most painful victory of all. Night falls, slow, relentless. No bugles, no ceremony. Just the light draining out from behind the barbed wire, leaving the courtyard in a familiar shade of bruised gray-blue. The scent of the sausage is gone. It evaporated like every other good thing that ever entered their lives. Hunger returns, but it's different now. It no longer screams. It no longer strangulates the stomach. It sits there, quiet. A dull reminder that the body is still functioning. But in its place, something else rises. Something deeper, wider. Homesickness. The women huddle under the thin wool blankets. The fabric is coarse. It bites at the skin. But they don't flinch. They are used to things that bite. What keeps them awake aren't the guards or the cold. It is the images. In the dark, the memories become neon bright. The old kitchen, the chipped wooden table in the corner, the creak of a chair when a husband shifts his weight, a mother's voice echoing from the back door. Come, eat. It's getting cold. They don't know if those houses still stand. They don't know if those mothers still have the strength to light a fire. They don't know if their husbands are soldiers on the other side of the line, or just names on a casualty list that nobody bothers to read. In the camp, night is when the ghosts speak loudest. During the day, you can hide behind the labor of survival. But when the stomach is quiet, the heart refuses to be silent. A woman turns her face to the wall, letting out a sob so small it's almost a whistle. then bites her lip until it bleeds. Another stares at the sky, searching for a familiar star as if it were a compass point to a life that no longer exists. They realize a terrifying truth. A full stomach doesn't numb the pain. It gives the pain the strength to stand up. When you are starving to death, memory is a luxury you cannot afford. But when you are treated with kindness, when you are given warmth and food, your soul begins to reclaim what it lost. They think of the Americans from this afternoon. They did something so simple. Food, blankets, warm water. But that simplicity cut deeper than any bayonet, because it reminded them that they were once normal. They once had names. They once had chairs at a table. They once belonged to someone. A full stomach cannot replace a family. A piece of meat cannot turn back the clock of a world war. But in this brutal reality, a small, stubborn thing emerges. The capacity to remember. And if they can still remember, they are still human. They are not just shadows in the mud. They are the guardians of their own history. They close their eyes. They don't pray. They don't make promises to a God they no longer recognize. They just breathe. Slower, steadier. Between the barbed wire and the dirt, they hold on to the one thing that cannot be confiscated. The dignity of a person who has loved and been loved. The dignity of a person who once belonged to a home. The night flows on. The war is far from over in their hearts. But somewhere, deep beneath the frost and the iron, a thin thread of life has been reconnected. Not by the food itself, but by the admission that they were worthy of it. They are no longer the enemy. They are no longer the prisoners. They are women. And in the silence of the camp, that is the most terrifying and beautiful thing they have left.